Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you for the next half an hour or so. Sunny Side of the Dome is presented by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 6 p.m. on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel, and you can also find us on our Facebook or Twitter pages. We post the link there, so by any one of those mediums, you can always follow along line. Post your questions, comments, love that interaction, anything you have to say. And if you like what we do here at Sunny Side of the Dome, if you like the content, there's lots more where that came from. So we have the main Jays from the Couch podcast, which is Monday evenings at 6 p.m. That's hosted by Jays from the Couch founder and head honcho Sean Doyle. Sean does a great job mixing things up on the podcast, always keeps it interesting. In addition to his insight and wisdom, he's normally got people on there to give alternate viewpoints, whether that be other Jays from the Couch writers, I'm on it sometimes, or other writers, sometimes bloggers who cover other MLB teams to give their viewpoints, actual professional media that covered the Jays, such as Shai Davidi, Keegan Matheson, and even some Blue Jays players or prospects. They had Jordan Romano on a while ago. So always very interesting to check it out. If you haven't been, be sure and do that. And you can catch, if you missed the live version of the Jays from the Couch main podcast, that is available as a podcast anywhere you get actual podcasts that you can download the audio version. So Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, any quality podcast, they've got Jays from the Couch. Other than that, my show or the other show, which I'll get to in a minute, if you don't catch the live version, when you're ready for us, we're ready for you. You can always catch the archive on any one of those mediums aforementioned. So the YouTube channel, Facebook, or Twitter. And for some more fun, just to round things out, the other show that we've got is at the On-Feck Circle. That's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And that's hosted by my crazy colleague, the Feckless Wonder, Steve Feck himself. And Steve is always very interesting. If nothing else, Steve is never boring. He's smart, he's knowledgeable, he's funny, he'll make you think. If you're anything like me, you might tear your hair out when you listen to him occasionally. A lot of times I find myself disagreeing with Steve, but that's okay. We can always agree to disagree. So I hope you've been checking out the On-Feck Circle, and if you haven't been, be sure and start. That's Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And happy Thursday evening. How's it going, everybody? I hope everybody's well. Just to start off, normally speaking, I wear something that has to do either with the Blue Jays or with Jays from the Couch. Today, I've got a Maple Leaf jersey on because the Maple Leafs start their playoff series. As I'm sure everybody knows, anybody who's into sports at all, the Maple Leafs game one of their round one Stanley Cup playoff series, starts this evening at 7:30 p.m., so opposite our Blue Jays, but definitely want to cheer them on. So go Maple Leafs, and hopefully this will be a really good season for them. And now on to the Blue Jays. So before the heart of the order, as usual, some housekeeping items. Thank goodness, knock on wood, there's a lot fewer so far this week than there have been in some past weeks. A couple weeks ago, it took me 20 minutes just to get through the transactions. Yikes. So they still had some transactions, but fortunately not nearly as many. So Ryan Beraki, unfortunately, he went to the 10-day injured list with left forearm flexor strain. So that's too bad. The Jays will be without him for a while. Although I was hearing today that apparently they don't really expect him to be out all that long. So it might even be the the minimum 10 days or close to it. So that's really good news if they're able to get him back healthy and pitching like he was for the most part, really helping out that bullpen. Nick Algayer, a bit of an interesting and kind of unfortunate story. So has yet to make his major league debut, wasn't even on the 40-man roster. He's left-handed pitcher, was pitching in AAA, pitching quite well actually. And so they brought him up. They felt they needed a new, fresh arm, so he was added to the 60-day, he was added to the 40-man roster, as well as to the 26-man roster. Unfortunately for him, he didn't even get into a game. From what I'm hearing, this past Sunday, when the Jays jumped out to a really big lead, and they had Anthony Kay start, and he pitched well in that he didn't allow any runs. Unfortunately, his control was a little off, and the walks were up, and therefore the pitch count got a little bit elevated, so he only lasted 4 innings. My understanding is if it had remained a lopsided score, because at one point it was 8-0 for the Jays, that would have been the perfect time to get Algayer into a game. He could have saved the rest of the bullpen, get him his MLB debut, see how he did, and get at least a little bit of an idea of what they have in him for the future. Well, the Phillies kept clawing back in that game, and the final score when it was finally over was 10-8 for our Blue Jays. So no Nick Algayer, and then unfortunately for him, he was actually optioned back down without ever getting into a game. So hopefully he can come back up sometime and actually make his MLB debut. So to make room for Algayer on the 40-man roster, unfortunately, David Phelps, who was already on the 10-day IL, was moved to the 60-day IL. So I guess it wasn't a huge shock when they were doing all the injury updates. They kept saying, David Phelps, still waiting for an MRI, still waiting for an MRI. 2 days later, they were still waiting for the results of this MRI. So are they normally that slow where pro athletes are concerned? Normally you've got your results back pretty quick. So maybe they were just kind of looking at things and seeing what they thought the results meant. And so unfortunately, he's gone for a couple of months. That's too bad. He was pitching really well down there. Some better news, they actually did activate Rafael Dolis when he was eligible, which was this past Tuesday, just a couple of days ago. And he did get into the game. He pitched the final inning. He did have a walk, but no hits, no runs, and 3 strikeouts. So great to have Dolis back, because he's also a really good, valuable member of that bullpen. And let's hope the Jays can keep rolling. So, on to the heart of the order. The Blue Jays, the week that was, where do they find themselves, and what can and should they do to improve themselves? So, first off, there was some really interesting news that was posted during the week, a week, by the way, in which they have so far gone 3-2. So I'm happy with that. Just keep winning, and each week try to keep winning more than you lose, and you'll end up with a good season and a good record at the end of the season. So they won the series over the weekend against the Phillies, 2-1 so far, because obviously they haven't played this evening's game yet. So far, they're 1-1 against the first place Boston Red Sox. With tonight's game, that'll decide that series. So still doing pretty well overall. Some of the interesting news that came out, so there's a website, teamrankings.com, and they actually look at, in Major League Baseball, all 30 teams, the strength of the opposition that they have had to go up against so far. And as of a couple of days ago, the Blue Jays literally had the hardest schedule in all of MLB up until this point. And I checked it not long ago just to get the updated information, and they've slightly dropped to number 2. The Colorado Rockies have actually overtaken them for the hardest schedule in terms of the strength of their opposition. But the Jays are second So hardest in the American League and second in all of Major League Baseball, and they've still managed to do as well as they have. They're right in the thick of things as far as the hunt for some kind of postseason spot in the American League. It keeps kind of bouncing back and forth, and it's exciting to watch because it's really bunched up close, not only in the AL East division, but if you're looking at the wild card, you've got to look at the other teams that are close to that, Houston, Cleveland, and so forth. And, when you win, I think they've been officially in the second wild card spot on a few different occasions, and then unfortunately they might lose a game and then they fall out of it, and then they might climb back in a day or two later. So it's May, and maybe some people think it's too early to be looking at the standings. I don't agree with that. Excuse me a second. Anyway, so yeah, a tough schedule, revolving door to the injured list, it seems like. And speaking of the injured list, they also said that Anthony Castro is somebody that's pretty close to coming back. So again, here's somebody that he kind of came out of nowhere. I think he was a waiver claim in the offseason from the Detroit Tigers, I believe, and he's just come on board for the Jays and pitched so well out of the bullpen. So to have him back doing what he has been up until now and pretty much this whole season, that will also definitely help. The tough schedule, revolving door to the injured list, and the Jays are like right in the mix as far as a playoff spot. Really, really exciting to see. I can see them really making hay after the next month or so, because they still have some pretty tough opponents for the next month. And then after that, their schedule just gets so much easier. In the meantime, they could be getting more players back from the injured list along the way. So, and the other news, so Baseball America, that they're always updating the top 100 prospects in all of MLB, and part of it is when players either fall off the list or they might play their way onto the list. And the other thing is eventually players, they graduate. Once they have enough MLB experience that they're no longer officially considered prospects. So as of the most updated list, the Toronto Blue Jays have 8 player prospects, on the top 100 list. That is the most of any organization in all of MLB. I'm impressed. You've got a contending team at the major league level, and you've got a farm system that is that strong. And think about it, just going back a couple of years, think of just how many rookies that there were. I remember a picture that was posted in the last month of the season where they had, hopefully you're getting away from real rookie hazing and really bad things like that. I think they're really making an effort to keep things fun and not offensive or anything, but they had a rookie dress up day, and there was this picture of them as a group dressed up in different ways. And yeah, what struck me, so many rookies. That was just 2 years ago in 2019, and our farm system is already back to being one of the top farm systems in all of baseball with these top 100 prospects. So I have to say, honestly, as much as some people don't like the Jays front office, don't like Shapiro and Atkins, I think overall they've done a phenomenal job. I'm not going to sit here and say they've never made mistakes along the way, because they have. Who hasn't? None of us is error-free. But I just think their good moves have so far outweighed the number of bad moves that I'm really happy. I'm really impressed to have them running our team. So let's talk about these prospects that are on the top 100 list. So you've got Austin Martin. He was drafted last year. He's 22 years old, currently playing at AA, and he's someone who, whatever position he ends up with, is a little bit up in the air. There's a possibility that he could be a center fielder in the future, possibly an infielder. He's played some infield, some third base. Shortstop, I think he was officially listed as a shortstop when they drafted him. I don't think he's playing shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays. I think Bo Bichette has got that position locked down for a number of years. But Austin Martin is basically their highest ranked prospect right now. So it'll be interesting to see when he is MLB ready. I'm not expecting that this year, to be honest with you, but let's let him get some experience in the minor leagues and see when he actually is MLB ready and ready to help the big club. Nate Pearson, we all know about Nate Pearson, so he's still officially a prospect. He doesn't have enough MLB service time to not be a prospect. So we all know about his stuff, his potential. He's had great success in the minors. He's been good in MLB at times. He made a playoff appearance actually last year, and the one game that he got into, pitched a few innings, and he just looked so dominant, bunch of strikeouts, no runs given up. The problem is Pearson has been inconsistent, and I think a lot of that has to do with he hasn't been able to stay healthy. But anyway, we saw him a while ago. Unfortunately, the result wasn't very good. So he's back at AAA, and we'll see how long it is before he can work his way back here. What I really hope, because when they called him up, it kind of felt more like the Jays really needed pitching, and they still really need pitching. That end of the rotation, it's still very much a work in progress. Personally, I don't want to see Nate Pearson with the Jays again until he's ready to be in Major League Baseball and get guys out and have the kind of success that his talent dictates that he should have. So there's that. Jordan Grossens, he's an infielder. He's a little bit on the young side. He's 21 years old, playing at AA. I think he's officially listed as a shortstop. Personally, what I've heard is I think he can be the Jays' third baseman of the future. One thing about Grossens, so when he's on his game, he hits for power, and I understand his throwing arm is above average. Well, as we've seen, it's good to have a third baseman with a very good throwing arm. So again, I'm not really expecting to see Grossens in the majors this season, but we'll see when he's really ready, whether that ends up being next season or whenever it is. His play will tell. Simeon Richardson, Jays fans are quite familiar with him. He had a very strong spring training as somebody out of the rotation. Alek Manoah got a lot more of the attention, more because of the strikeouts perhaps than anything. Richardson, he's actually had a little bit longer pro career. So Manoah was drafted out of college, so he got some highly competitive experience in that way. Richardson was drafted so early, and pretty much any level that he's pitched at, he's been like one of the youngest players in the league. He's having some good success. It looks like AA is the good place for him right now. He's doing well, but he's not. His results to me don't scream he's absolutely ready for the next level. I think AA, is where he should be for the time being, and then maybe he earns a promotion to AAA at some point during the season. We'll see about that. Alejandro Kirk is also on the top 100 MLB prospects. Well, we know about Alejandro Kirk. He's played in Major League Baseball. He's a catcher who's unfortunately currently on the 60-day injured list. Apparently he's making some progress toward coming back, so that's good. And he's someone that he just hits. I mean, his hitting talent is really great. We've seen him go from A-ball all the way to MLB last year and then this year, and his hitting is really amazing. So it'll be nice to have him back when he's eligible to come off the 60-day IL and when he's ready to be back. Or Elvis Martinez. He's a really young prospect. He's an infield prospect, basically a shortstop. He's only 19 years old, and he's actually playing at low A, which now is Dunedin. So He's doing all right down there. I mean, it's an adjustment before that when there was minor league baseball the last time, because as we know, there wasn't any last year. Back in 2019, he played, I think, in one of the rookie ball leagues. So even playing in A ball is a little bit of a jump for him, and he's young. He's got lots of talent. So he's one that down the road in the future, there's a really good chance that he can help a major league team. I'll get back to that before too long. So the other prospects, rounding out the top 8, Alek Manoah, previously mentioned, pitching at AAA, just been lights out. I mean, he's had 3 starts. He finally gave up a run yesterday for the first time in 3 starts. He gave up a solo home run. He has an ERA of 0.50. Yeah, it's just been amazing. He's 23 years old. He has, I think, 27 strikeouts in 18 innings pitched over 3 starts, 27 strikeouts, 3 walks, few hit by pitches. So yeah, and apparently people that were actually watching him play live yesterday were saying that he wasn't at his sharpest, still racked up 10 strikeouts. But yeah, so he's someone that a lot of fans really want to see up here sooner than later. Interesting that he pitched on the same night that Ross Stripling was getting lit up for the Toronto Blue Jays. Unfortunately, he really seems to have a hard time. Ross Stripling does in the first inning of games, and his previous start against Atlanta, he gave up 2 runs, but then he lasted 5 innings and didn't give up anything more. So that's not so bad. And yesterday, it was a lot worse than that. He only lasted 3 and 2/3, I think it was, gave up 6 runs, and by then, unfortunately, the game was out of reach, even though the bullpen pretty much did its thing and only allowed 1 run the rest of the way. So a lot of people are looking at that and saying, Manoah pitching on the same day as Stripling, wouldn't it be relatively easy to bring Manoah up and just slot him into that spot in the rotation? Again, and I touched on this a little bit last week, I like Manoah. I think that he will be up at some point this year, and I think that he should be. If nothing else, get him a taste of Major League Baseball, and let's see how well he can do once they bring him up. Let's see if he can be anywhere near as dominant against a much higher caliber of hitters than he is at AAA. I don't want to see them rush him, even though he looks as great as he does. I really want him to truly be MLB ready. I think he should at least get a month worth of experience down at AAA, and then maybe sometime in June they bring him up. And then lastly, as far as the 8 guys on the top 100, Gabriel Moreno, catcher, 21 years old, playing at AA, one of the youngest players in the entire league, and right now he is absolutely making AA pitching look silly. He has an OPS of 1.124, that is 5th best in the entire league, and he's a catcher. I mean, normally speaking, catchers, you need them to be solid defensively. They aren't necessarily the first person on your roster that you look to for offensive contributions, but it looks, I know it's only AA, and it's still a small sample size to start the season because their season didn't even get started until early May. He really looks like he's going to be a good one. And apparently he already has 4 caught stealings as a catcher. So I'm thinking maybe he's somebody who can help the Blue Jays out. I wouldn't necessarily rush him to MLB this season. If he keeps playing this strongly, maybe he'll get a promotion to AAA at some point. See how that goes. But so here's how I look at it. We've got 3 starting pitchers who overall have been very solid in Ryu, Ray, and Steven Matz. Still got an issue with the rest of the rotation. So Ross Stripling, after I thought he was going to be okay 2 starts ago, we're really not pitching like he belongs in the rotation of a contending team, unfortunately. And then you've got Anthony Kay. I like Anthony Kay. I think he has talent. Anthony Kay actually pitches well when he throws strikes. That was the case again this past Sunday. When he was throwing strikes, he was doing well, and he got through 4 innings and didn't give up any runs. But he was a little wild at times. Pitch count got elevated, issued some walks, and so forth. So he might or might not be someone who ends up sticking in the rotation. Another possibility on a rehab assignment and pitching tonight for AAA is Thomas Hatch. And apparently he's really working his way back. He's going to be eligible to come off the 60-day injured list fairly early in June. I don't know the exact date, but so he's down there trying to work it out and work his way back to being ready to help the Jays. And he has MLB experience. He pitched last year in the bullpen, did quite well, and I know the Jays really like his talent. So that's another possibility for the rotation. A lot of people have talked about going out and making trades. I definitely see that as a possibility if there's someone out there, and there's always someone out there, someone who's done well for a team that hasn't done that well. And rather than keep them, they want to do what the Jays did a couple of years ago when they traded away Marcus Stroman. They want to reload and rebuild for their future, especially if they've got a guy that's only under team control for another year or a year and a half or something like that. I look at it this way. They've got these 8 prospects, and they've got some pretty darn good players on the major league team that are already in contention in spite of all the injuries and the tough schedule and all of that. Simple math says that there isn't enough room on the major league roster to fit in all of the prospects and all of the guys that are on the 28-man roster now, as well as the guys that are on the injured list. Great problem to have. The Jays just have too much talent. So what are they going to do? I think they've got the makings for an impact trade. I think you can look at even 1 or 2 of the guys that are part of the top 100 prospects. Somebody like Elvis Martinez. I said I would circle back to him because he's got a high ceiling and because he's so young. He's not someone that I expect to see in MLB at least for another few years. And as I said, by then, I mean, we've got Bo Bichette, we've got other guys that are a little older and a little closer to being MLB ready. I think Elvis Martinez is someone that the Jays can trade, maybe not even by himself, maybe as part of a package to get some more immediate help. An established starting pitcher who could really join the rotation and help them. Someone who's actually doing very well, I noticed. Unlike a lot of the trade targets that many people talked about in the offseason, starting pitchers and established guys for other teams, a lot of them have really gotten off to slow starts to start this season. So in a way, I'm kind of glad the Jays didn't trade for any of those guys, although they could still work it out. You don't know. One guy that is doing very well for a team that really isn't is Matt Boyd. And he's someone that used to be with the Jays organization. They actually traded him away along with 2 other prospects in 2015 for David Price. So Boyd is under team control this year, and then all through next year he's ARB eligible, and then after that he's a free agent. So that's someone the Jays might want to target, or some other guys from other organizations. But anyway, yeah. So I think they've got enough talent that they could trade away a couple of these guys and really bring back some good help. And even the catching situation, the Jays have 5 catchers on their major league, on their 40-man roster. And you don't need 5 catchers, but I mean, they've all got talent to a greater or lesser extent. Danny Jansen's finally starting to hit. His defense has always been solid. His handling of the pitching staff, really good. He's finally starting to hit this month. Reese McGuire, they had to call him back up because of the injury to Kirk. And he is actually looking a lot more like the Reese McGuire that we saw in 2018 and 2019, as opposed to that terrible season he had last year. So he's doing well. We know about Kirk's hitting. the way Moreno was going, I mean, he, if anything, there's a chance that he could end up being the best of the bunch as far as having the highest ceiling, on both sides of the ball. So I'm thinking somewhere in there, one of those guys could be expendable. And if you had him and or Elvis Martinez, and then maybe another pitching prospect, maybe not one of the top ones, maybe someone like Adam Kloffenstein, who's a little bit further down the ladder, but he's still got a good bit of talent. And maybe those three would get a decent starting pitcher. Anyway, almost at the end of tonight's show, which brings me to Through Blue Jay Color Glasses. So, well, once again, as I keep saying, I'm just so impressed with this team, the organization, what they've done with the minor leagues and the major leagues at the same time. I mean, it's just, I find it so impressive. It's a great time to be a Blue Jays fan, and I can see some hardware coming the Jays' way after the season. And right now, I'm not even talking about the players. The players, the pitchers, Hyun-Jin Ryu could be in the mix for a Cy Young. He's just pitched that great. Guerrero, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, if he isn't top three in the league for AL MVP, I'll be very, very surprised. I'm thinking more about the management. Charlie Montoyo was a top 3 vote getter for American League Manager of the Year last year, just doing what he's doing with this team, keeping them in contention with so many injuries. If they make the playoffs this year, which I expect them to, I could see Montoyo as Manager of the Year. He's just done so much in such a short space of time to have the success that he's had. And he's made some really good moves this year, some on-field moves, things like double switches and the bullpen management, and just all the different things that he's had to do. And then Ross Atkins. Could he win Executive of the Year? I mean, what he's done with the entire organization, I think there's at least got to be consideration there. So from top to bottom in the organization, it's going well. It's firing on all cylinders. Well, many cylinders. The rotation, they'll get that worked out. I have confidence. And yeah, great time to be a Blue Jay fan. And on that note, that pretty much wraps it up for today. So going to be some channel surfing tonight between the Jays and the Leafs. Go Leafs, go. Let's go Blue Jays. And thanks for tuning in. See you next